First things first, my name is Chesney, CHEZZNEY, and welcome to Benny's World. I'll get into what Benny's World is another time. We'll get into all that another time. But right now, I want to talk about my cannabis prescription. I want to talk about all these lovely meds. So yeah, first got my prescription just a little bit under a year ago. I'd say maybe like 10 months ago or so now, as of February 2024. Since then, everyone's been asking me, how did you get it? Jez, how did you get it? What's that? Is it real? All this stuff. So I thought, I just make a video and talk about it. For everyone out of their misery, them way that medical cannabis has been legal in the UK since 2018, but it's not really spoken about that much. At least I haven't really heard it been spoken about much in the public domain. Not seeing it in the newspapers, not really seeing it spoken about anywhere. I haven't really heard it on the radio. I don't really watch the news, so I can't really comment on that one. I listen to a bit of radio when I'm at work and stuff, so I don't really hear it there. But it's legal. So there's none of that curtain twitching stuff. You know what I mean? Jumping at the doorbell. You get me? If you have a condition that can be treated with cannabis, migraines, endometriosis, Alzheimer's, epilepsy, motor neurons disease, stroke, Tourette's, ADHD, anxiety, depression, PTSD, Crohn's disease, IBS, there's so many, cancer, insomnia, I could just keep going. That's not even the full list, there's so many. If you have one of those conditions that can be treated with cannabis, once you have 2 treatments or medicines that's been prescribed by your GP, then you can go to your cannabis clinic and get your prescription, get your meds. There's plenty of specialist cannabis clinics out there. So just do your research, find the best one for you, sign up. And when you sign up, you gotta you put in your details and stuff, you put in your condition and the meds that you've been prescribed by your GP or the treatment. So if it's for pain, you might have something wrong with your back, I don't know, or like your leg or something. And you might have been prescribed like a painkiller medicine, but then you might have also been prescribed physio. So that would be your 2 prescriptions. That would then allow you to proceed with the cannabis clinic. I'm sure every cannabis clinic has their differences with how you sign up and things like that. I can't quite remember my process because it was like a year ago. But if I remember correctly, after I'd done all the steps on the website, so after you register, put in your details and stuff, you put in your medical records and you've either given them a copy or you just put in your NHS number. Again, all clinics are different, so I don't know at what point, what clinic gets you to do what, but for me it was during the sort of registration process. Then after I was all approved, then I had to book a consultation. The date of the consultation, for me, I don't know what it's like now because as I said, the system's changed, but for me, the day I was looking at the calendar to book, so let's say it was today, the earliest date was about 3 weeks after, so there was that. Luckily though, the clinic called a couple of days later and said, we've got an available slot a little bit earlier, do you want to take it? And I said, man, hell yeah, I want to take that. Then I had my consultation. So during the consultation, it was actually quite interesting. It was actually a really interesting conversation with the doctor. So at first I'm a bit like, oh shit, like, do I really want to talk to the doctor about like my cannabis use? Do you know what I mean? It's a bit, but in the end, it was fine because you kind of have to remember that this is a specialist cannabis clinic and these doctors are here to help you. I spoke to them about my condition. So just in case you're wondering, it's insomnia. I have insomnia. I've had it since I was a child, but I've only really been able to do something about it since I've become an adult. Thank God. Because man, if you ever can't sleep and you've got to get up and be productive, man, it's one of the worst things ever. So I spoke with the doctor about that and how cannabis affects my condition, and just let him know basically it's not a magic wand. It doesn't guarantee me sleep. It just makes sleep much more likely. It just kind of relaxes me a lot more. Sometimes it does knock me out. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Very, very few times it doesn't. Well, it doesn't always like knock me out, but a lot of the time I can relax and unwind like quick enough to just like fall asleep very soon after like killing the roach. So spoke to the doctor about that, and he understood what I meant. Wanted to know like the strains that I've been medicating with and things like that, which I found also quite interesting, because he was asking me about strains, right? And like, you know, when you've been self-medicating for years, you've probably got a list as long as your arm, but in reality, you don't really know if those are the strains that you've actually had, because here in the UK, we don't have regulation like that. So someone somewhere might pay a little bit more for something that has a fancy name. What's to stop them from just calling the standard shit they've always got something else? Do you know what I mean? So I kind of explained that to my doctor as well. He understood, and he reassured me, and you know, I didn't even really realize it at the time, but he reassured me that everything's tested, everything's gone through lab like testing, you know, like it burns clean. It burns clean. It's like white fucking ash. Like it's. He didn't tell me that, but he was just assuring me that it's like, if we say it's what it is, it's what it is. If it says the percentage on the package, it's what it is. You know, the terpene percentage, you get my drift. I don't know whether he knew and was just doing his job, or if he genuinely didn't know about the fact that when you're getting like your meds from a dealer, is like you're at the mercy of your dealer. I don't really know, but it's interesting because there was that, and then he was then able to make recommendations for strains to prescribe me based on like all the information I told him. So for example, like how cannabis affects my condition, my history of cannabis, so how long I've been self-medicating for, and then of course whether I've like built up a tolerance over that time, the strains I've had so far, which is why you asked that like in like near the beginning, and like how much I use on a daily basis. All these things he took into consideration and was then able to write up a prescription, but also make a recommendation. I can't remember what was available at the time, but I do remember at some point, like I had, I've got them here, I mean they're empty, but like Cura T11 strain, 25% THC, 1% CBD, indica dominant. There we go. This is the Cura T8 strain, and this is 21% THC, sativa dominant. So this would have been my daytime strain. So that's another thing why you need to be quite honest with your doctor when you have your consultation, because my doctor, so obviously, you know, again, make your phone call, your dealer, there's not really much option. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna get meds just to help me get to sleep. But my doctor then asked, well, don't you want something in for during the day, you know, in case you wake up a little bit groggy? I says, nigga, hell yeah, hell yeah.
Smoke weed every day.
Like that, god damn it. And he prescribed me this. So the point is, be honest. They're not out to catch you out, they're out to help you. And then I paid for my prescription. Once I paid for it, it came like the next day. So it was like next day delivery, which is pretty quick. So it was like 3 weeks in total from registering with the clinic to getting my meds, which is longer than I'm used to. But yeah, it's new, it's relatively new. I mean, it's been around for about 5 years, but it's new. You know, they're still trying to figure things out, I assume. I don't know. But then at the same time, like I personally, I prefer it if it was quicker, but at the same time when it lands, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you know what I mean? So, but to be fair though, it was my first prescription, and this prescription that took a week to process, but all the other prescriptions in between only took like 48 hours. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like after a follow-up, like your prescription gets processed like a little bit slow. I don't know what it is, but what I do know is after I think it's after a couple of months. I think it's after like 3 months or something like that. Don't quote me, like feel free to research it for yourself. But after a couple of months, you have a follow-up with your doctor. So it's like a consultation, but it's just a follow-up just to see how you're getting on, see if any changes need to be made. So for example, after my follow-up, I felt like I needed stronger meds. So I just let my doctor know, just let him know the stuff I've been getting is great, but I feel like it could be better. And he said, in what sense? And I said, well, it could be a little bit stronger. So yeah, unpacking that for me. Did I have another one? I can't remember if I had another one. I can't remember if I had another one. I really can't remember, man. I don't know if it's just me.
Shit, I don't even know. Like, I can't even tell you that. Like,
I'm sorry.
I don't know. Like,
I can't remember all the details.
Never know,
That was all with. That's all with Cantourage. So the clinic I'm with is Cantourage, and personally, they've been great. And of course, with all the stuff like the consultations, the follow-ups and stuff, you're dealing with a doctor at a private clinic, so you've got to pay for that. I can't remember what the prices are or were, because again, the prices have changed since I did it. But when I did it, it was pretty reasonable. I mean, I'm a working man. I'm not trying to like send shots or anything. I'm just saying, to someone who's a working man, I'm able to do it. Not that all working people would be able to. Look, man, you understand what I'm trying to say here. Cantourage, for me, they've been great. I didn't know at the time, but you can actually ask you can ask what strains are available. I didn't know at the time, but after the first time, I then started asking and started finding out what's what and looking online and seeing what these strains are about and things like that. And I think my clinic's been amazing in terms of communication. They're always available. But in terms of the pricing, so they have all these different strains, and the strains range between £5 a gram and £11 a gram. And they all come in 10 gram packs. So if it's £5 a gram, then you're paying £50 for your 10 gram pack. If it's £11 a gram, you're going to be paying 110. So there's that. Some of them obviously are cheaper than black market strains that you go to your dealer and all of that. But then again, some of them are going to be on par. Some of them are going to be more expensive. For me, the benefit of this whole system, though, even if it is a little bit more expensive, is that you know what you're getting. If you want GMO, for example, let's say, for example, you want GMO, you heard that your dealer's got it, and you want to get it and stuff, but you're thinking, oh, it's a little bit more pricey, and I don't know, blah 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 blah. Like with this medical stuff, you know exactly what you're getting. You know what I mean? And it comes in this. Well, this particular one is GMO, which is why I used it in the example. But it comes on the thingamabob, it comes on the box, and it shows you 30% THC, less than 1% CBD, indica, expiry date. Now, I don't know about you, but you see me here, yeah? When it comes to weed, I don't know about an expiry date. I could find some shit in my jeans from fucking 10 years ago, man, will roll that up and ras it, yeah? But that's what they do, innit? So some of the more heavy hitters can be more expensive, although it's not necessarily the strength that makes it more expensive. Sometimes they just are. But I'm willing to, for me personally, if something that's a lot more suited to what I need it for is a bit more expensive, personally, I don't really mind, because I know that it's grown properly. They haven't grown it with PGRs. And for example, if you don't know what PGRs are, they're plant growth regulators. It's basically like plant steroids. And in places where, and don't quote me on this, but as far as I'm aware, in places where cannabis is legal, across the board, to grow it and everything, apparently PGRs are banned. So in places like the UK, for example, where it's illegal, apparently PGRs are unregulated, so like your dealer might be selling you cannabis that's like pumped full of PGRs, and like there's like, how would you know unless you get to a point with your cannabis use that you know what's what, you know what PGR looks like? How are you gonna know? So this is why personally I love the medical, because you can't get away with certain things with it. All the testing on it. We've got Parve S1 by Green Carrot. So if you look on the back, you've got all the kind of stuff on it. All the things. I don't know if you can read it, but I'll read it out for you. So it's got batch number, the product, expiry date is April 2024, tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, 25.9%, cannabidiol, CBD, less than 0.1%, testing method, DAB monograph, and I don't know what that says, but I think it's German. Yeah, because it says farm manufacturer, Cantorage, GmbH, and I don't know how to pronounce that word again, German. So it says, there's a table. See where the table is? Right there. See that table? So it's got smell and then specification. Alright, so it's got one column, then it's got another column. Then it says smell, characteristics of cannabis, result complies. And then it says identity tests ABC. The specification of it is in compliance with DAB monograph. And then again, there's a German word that relates to something in cannabis, but I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm not about to embarrass myself by trying to either. But the result is that it complies, which is awesome. I don't know what tests A, B, and C are, but we like it. Foreign components, max 2.0% complies. Loss on drying, max 10%, result 9.5%. Cannabinol, CBN, max 1%, result less than 0.1%. So CBN, as far as I'm aware, is what THC degrades into when, so for example, if you're growing weed, like you're growing a crop, I'm saying like that, I'm just mean in general, and you leave it a bit too long, and then the trichomes that have THC in them they get a bit mature. You know, they like get a bit mature, like cheese, they get a bit mature. And sometimes it can get so mature, like it can degrade into CBN or cannabinol. And as far as I'm aware, CBN is a cannabinoid that kind of makes you feel a little bit sleepy. It aids in sleep. So when I went to LA, actually, it was actually LA I went to, they had these gummies that were literally for sleep. They were marketed as the sleep edible, and they had CBN in them. And the bartender was telling me a bit about CBN, which I found very interesting, because obviously here you get your dealer going, yeah, and you know what? It's got a nice bit of CBD in it too. So you know when sometimes it makes you feel funny, you're gonna feel alright with this one. You know what I mean? They don't do all of that. So it was nice. It was a nice experience. Maybe I'll document it sometime so that everyone can kind of get an experience of what it's like to go to a dispensary in LA without actually having to go, especially if you don't partake, you know. Back to it. THC content, 90.0-110% of label claim. Result 25.9%. CBD content, max 1%, less than 0.1%. So then it says the batch was manufactured and tested in compliance with GMP. The batch complies with the valid monograph. And again, the German cannabis related word that I can't pronounce. Of the German pharmacopoeia and the valid monograph. And then the label covers it, so I can't read the rest of it. But it's okay. We just know it's some good shit. I think I went off topic there. But essentially what I was trying to say is if my prescription comes out more expensive than I'm used to paying for my herbs, I don't really mind, because you know what you're getting. It's tested, you know, all of these things. It's that there's regulation, you know, there's regulation there. They talk about controlled substances, control the substance and legalize it, no Ross. You know them way there. Okay, you can't talk about a controlled substance where it's easier to get it when it's illegal than it is when it's legal. So I'm telling you, a lot of these teenage stoners, they wouldn't be able to get their hands on nothing if it was legal. Nah, man. But that's another conversation for another time. But also for the people that are kind of like, but I don't want all that kind of big percentage herbs there. Like, I'm only little, or whatever it is you might say to yourself. That's all right, because they have a range of like strengths. They just have a range of things. You know, you don't have to get the most heavyweight herb. And not only that, but you don't even have to get herb either. You can get a tincture, you know, the ones where you just put it underneath your tongue. Or if you want, you can like drop it into your drink and have it that way. Or a vape, you know. So there's different ways. You don't always have to like, so when I say vape, I'm talking like liquid vape, not the dry herb vape. I mean the liquid. Yeah. And one more thing, because I had a conversation with someone that was really curious about it, and they were telling me how much they really, really dislike the effects of cannabis. So they were saying like, oh, which strain does what, and what does this, and what does that. So for those that don't really partake, but they're curious to know what it's like, I must stress that the effects of the strains aren't sort of like exclusive. So let's say, for example, a doctor might prescribe one of his patients like a Gorilla Glue 4 for their headache and a migraine, you know. That same Gorilla Glue 4 might also be able to treat like anxiety or depression or IBS, you know what I mean? So in that regard, you can also just find strains that you never thought would work for you, but they do. So that's another benefit as well, because then you don't have to just be like, you know, it's only this strain that works for me. Although some people are, just this strain only works for me. It's only this strain. Because sometimes what can happen is that they might run out of stock of the strain that you regularly get. So if you've run out of that strain, or if they've run out of that strain, I should say, you're not then necessarily going to find yourself at a loss. So that's why I feel like it's quite a good thing that cannabis is quite so multifaceted. You know, not only can you make textiles and clothes and bags and shit and hempcrete and you name it, but you can also take one strain for pain and use it on another ailment. You know the way. And of course, for the people that are like, well, then what's the point in getting a different strain if they can all help with the same thing? Yeah. But to answer that question, the strains have different makeups of cannabinoids, and not just cannabinoids, but also terpenoids. So cannabinoids are the chemical compounds within the cannabis plant that gives effects. It might not always be psychoactive, but they might have an effect. So for example, CBD makes you feel a lot more relaxed, like a body relaxation. And obviously THC is psychoactive, but CBD is not psychoactive. So you got all these different cannabinoids within, and obviously, like I've just said, CBN as well. You got all these different cannabinoids, but you've got them at different ratios and different levels. And then that has an effect on the overall effect of the plant. But also you've got the terpenoids, which is like the smells. You know, you've got the good old smells that come through, the friendly smells that cannabis gives us. And then you've got those at different levels. And then you got, I can't remember the names of them, but it's like limonene and limonene and myrcene and all these kind of different terps. And you got them at different levels, and they make the cannabis smell like something different, but also terps have an effect on the effect, if that makes sense. So when we talk about, say, for example, indica sativa, some people will say it's a myth. But personally, I believe that sativa, not just dominant strains, because it's not just the hybrids, but the actual sativa, like land races as well. I personally believe that they have not just the levels of cannabinoids, but also the configuration of terps that makes the effect a lot more uplifting, a lot more awakening, like you've had a sip of coffee. And then on the flip side, you've got the indicas, which is a lot more like couch lock, like it's like your bedtime herb. Again, the configuration of the cannabinoids and the terps, it just makes it a lot more.
She can't answer you.
You know what I mean?
She can't even talk.
More docile,
Ever since she started smoking pot, she just kind of lays there.
I've had a few people ask me as well, like, where does it come from? Like, where is that? Is that government weed? You know that I don't trust that. You know all that. No. And yeah, I was the same, because when I first heard about it, and I was thinking, nah, man, I'm not smoking a government weed. Man, fuck all that. You know what I'm saying? but then a friend of mine actually told me about it, and I broke it down for me. And what it is that there's companies overseas where it's legal. So for example, like Canada, Portugal, and I think Germany as well. And I think there's a few other places, but I haven't been able to confirm them just yet. Like North Macedonia, Denmark, where was the other place? I think Australia, but I don't know if those places do. But then again, the UK is like one of the biggest producers of medical cannabis in the world. And like none of it, as far as I'm aware, is sold here. So what I am aware of, what I can say is that there's companies from overseas in places like Portugal, Germany, I think, and Canada, but they'll grow it. They grow it to the same kind of, they grow it to comply with our UK regulations. I don't know if they do that to our regulations, or if the way they grow it is just happens to be in line with our regulations, or if we've made laws that line up with their, do you know what I mean? I'm not too sure on all of that bit, but Canada, they have companies that grow it that are in line and compliant with our laws. Ship it over. We have companies over here that have licenses to import cannabis, so then they import it. And then I'm a little hazy on the next part, but essentially it gets distributed to patients from that point on, I guess. I've also been asked about the quality, because I always had this little thing where I kind of thought that if weed became legal in the UK, certain things would happen, like the government will control the supply of weed, and anything that you get on prescription is going to be, like I was saying before, like anything you get on prescription is going to be grown by the government. You can't trust it, blah, 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 blah. I always thought the quality would be a bit pants, because I just wouldn't have thought that like real growers are going to really want to work like that. So I was pleasantly surprised. But then again, when you look into it, it's kind of not surprising, because if it's coming from like Canada, I mean, people probably might not know, but personally, I would say my Canadian prescriptions have been on par with what I've had in LA. So yeah. Then when you go back to price, a lot of my Canadian prescriptions have been sort of like 8, 9, 10, 11 pounds a gram. If you think about it in a different way, you might say something like, all right, Canadian and Cali, it's different places, but comparable quality, right? Now you could pay with something like £70 for a 3.5 for Cali, especially if it's like real, like genuine Cali. But then on the medical side, you're only paying something like 8, 9, 10 pound a gram, 11 pound a gram for genuine Canadian, and you know it's Canadian. That's just the way I look at it personally. And there's another little thing called irradiation. Dum dum dum. Well, it's not as scary as it sounds. Basically, all it is that when pharmaceutical companies manufacture their medicines, whether it be like a paracetamol, whether it be a cocodamol, like you name it, as far as I'm aware, they irradiate it with either beta irradiation or gamma irradiation, and all it is just a sterilization process. Now, personally, I don't think cannabis needs that, because, boy, You see when you go to the shop and you're buying the fruit and vegetables, as far as I'm aware, none of that is beta or gamma irradiated. So why does my cannabis need to be? But then again, when you look at the regulations and stuff, and you know, medicines are already gamma irradiated, and so are things like equipment, you know, syringes, PPE, things like that. It kind of makes sense. Personally, I prefer it not to be gamma irradiated or beta irradiated, simply because of, in my opinion, it kind of takes away from the flavor and the smell of the flower a bit. It makes it smell a bit. It gives it like a medical vibe. You know what I mean? It makes it feel like, don't get me wrong, it still smells like, you get me, but it's just a little bit more medical. It's got like a medical vibe, like a sterile kind of vibe. It's not unpleasant or anything. It's not like, ooh, it smells like a hospital. No. It's not anything like that. If I can make an analogy, I might butcher this because I am medicated. If you were to take the smell of McDonald's, classic McDonald's smell, and you're able to give it like a little, strip it down so it's just like, if you were to put a droplet, if you were to put some of it in water, it would be like a droplet or like a couple of droplets in some water, you know, just like an essence of it. You would still recognize that McDonald's smell. It's a similar thing with this. It's like, it's very slight though. It's very, very slight. For me, I don't really mind it. Yeah, I still enjoy it. It does its job. Look, man. Some of us were medicated for years. This stuff is, I'm grateful, man. You know what I mean? Especially if it's non-toxic, because you know, all our other medicines are, I mean, I don't usually take medicines that much anyway. I usually try to keep fit and healthy as much as I can. Try and cut that, you know, try and stay away from junk food and keep exercising and stuff. And, you know, you know, I don't get colds very often. But when I do, I might bang a lemsip if it gets bad enough, you know. But I'm assuming even that's sort of gamma or beta irradiated, even if it comes in a little sachet, you know, then we're there. I think that's pretty much it. Whoever watches this finds this like informative and useful, and if you're thinking about getting your own prescription, or if you have been thinking about getting your own prescription, I hope I've helped you make your decision whether you should or shouldn't. Got any questions? If I post this in a place where you can post comments, feel free. If this is in a place where you can subscribe, do so. All the interactions, the likes and all of that, yes please. And right now, I'm about to go medicate some more and then go to bed. So if you can, share this video, like it, subscribe if that's a thing you can do where you're watching this, because if you gas me up enough, I might do some more, might do some reviews. We have a box of chain and blood clot. Box! We have a box! A box! Have you ever heard that one? Yeah, if you want reviews, you know what to do.